It all started with a forgotten pair of wading boots, a group chat, and a long hike into Cheesman Canyon wearing nothing but moccasins. What began as a few buddies trading fishing reports and planning weekend trips slowly grew into something much bigger, an amazing resource for anyone interested in fly fishing travel. By the end of this episode, you'll know how to travel on a budget, find the right guides for the trip, and build fly fishing trips that fit any style or wallet. This is the Wet Fly Swing Podcast, where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back the fish species we all love. John Hunt, founder of Moccasin Fly Club, helps us understand how to find trips on a budget and why some of the best adventures are still DIY. We also get into fishing gear, two-handed casting, and how the club keeps things fun, flexible, and community-focused. Whether you're chasing redfish in New Orleans or permit in Mexico, John's got a trip for you, and he's going to show us how to travel smarter and fish with more success this year. Here he is, John Hunt from moccasinflyclub.com. How you doing, John?
Doing great, man. It's a nice day here in Denver, and happy to be on the pod. I appreciate the time.
Yeah. This is going to be good. We're going to definitely talk Colorado today. I think you guys have a travel program where you're not only in Colorado but around the country, and not only fly fishing, but some hunting. And so you guys have a diverse background with your program. We're going to get into all that today. I'd like to take it back to the start real quick and just talk about, how you got into all this before Moccasin came to be. Do you have a first memory in fly fishing? What's that look like?
I guess first memory in fishing in general is just as a kid with my grandfather, originally from Missouri. And I used to spend weekends driving all over from lakes and rivers and ponds and different stuff with my grandfather fishing. At that point, I was young and spin fishing, but he was a fly fisher. And I have one of his old rods still here at the house that is from like 1940 or something. That was like my first ever introduction into the fly world was, me with a bobber and a worm and watching him doing all of this kind of elaborate things with a fly line and etc. And then throughout my travels in college and everything else, I ended up in Aspen where there's, tons of water to fly fish. I wasn't fly fishing at that point avidly, but had a bunch of buddies that were guides and whatever. And that kind of brought it back around. And then, was fly fishing a ton all over the Front Range of Colorado. And then in 2018 is kind of when Moccasin slowly formed from a bunch of buddies on a group chat that the name of that group chat turned into Moccasin Fly Club. And then from there kind of turned into its own brand. But I left my house one morning at like 4:30 in the morning to drive down to Cheesman Canyon. Got there, we're all suiting up in the parking lot to get ready and noticed that I don't have my boots. I have waders, I have all my other stuff. But don't have the boots, and was wearing the house shoes that I ran out of the house at to try to get on as fast as possible. So ended up hiking in and walking around Cheesman Canyon for a full day and hiking out in a pair of Minnetonka moccasins.
Oh, really?
That shortly thereafter turned into how the name came to be. But, I still, every now and then I'll get a text from somebody that says, make sure you bring your boots and don't show up in moccasins. But that Cheesman Canyon hike is not too strenuous, but it's definitely uphill and downhill and all over. And I was wet wading in a pair of shorts and no socks and moccasins because that's what I had. So that's a lot of people ask about the name. There is no fly club to speak of. It was kind of a joke about the group text for about a year or so after that. And by the end of 2018, we had some shirts made, had some hoodies made, had other stuff going, and then that eventually turned into like the first trip out to Pyramid Lake was through all of those and how it came to be. And so 2019, actually formed a company, got it all set up and whatever. But the moccasin is more of just a laugh and a poke at, a funny gag that happened to me years ago that now even still comes up. But yes, officially not a club as much of it's just a business.
Yeah. But it is kind of I like the club. It sounds different. It's always good to be different, right?
For sure. And those guys are still fishing and doing stuff. Some of them are on our trips. Some of them do other stuff. One of them is one of our designers that makes a bunch of the clothing designs and stickers designs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But that hike and that day fishing in moccasins was a lot of laughs. It was some fish, but
what's the hardest thing about fishing in moccasins other than trying to keep them off, staying on your feet, right?
Yeah, keeping them on the feet is one thing. I tell everybody the worst part was like the mile and a half hike out with sopping wet leather moccasins to like get to your car and not having it. I ended up driving home. Like I drove home barefoot with the heater on blast on my feet because I was like, it was
Freezing. Were these the
yeah.
moccasins? Were these the moccasins that actually had? Some of them don't have like a sole, like they're not even made for outdoors. Were these like those type, or were they more the type?
No. So they had the little like rubber bumps on the bottom, and I mean, I literally would wear them around the house or whatever. But in the excitement of trying to go fish, jumped out, got it all done. And I mean, when I got home, I looked right by the front door, and my wading boots were just sitting there, like, what the hell happened? But
Yeah,
yeah. So the hike out was probably some of the hardest part, trying to go uphill and through things in, soaking wet leather moccasins, and then getting to your car and just being like, I don't have anything to put on, no socks.
right.
Needless to say, now I always have like a dry pair of socks.
Yeah, backups.
Yeah, even if they're gonna freeze in the car, they're still in there the night before because I just
You don't want to make that mistake.
yeah, it's not worth going through that again.
That's awesome. That's a great story. To a great reminder. And the group chat is good too. So in that group, you guys, what were you doing? Were you just kind of chatting about where you're going fishing, or were you guys always fishing together as kind of a group?
Yeah, so it's it's the same old thing where it's like starts with like, three or four buddies that are always trying to figure out if people are free to fish,
Yeah.
this Thursday night I may be able to get out. And this was a world before I had kids and other stuff. So it was, like gonna go to South Boulder on Thursday if anybody wants to go, gonna go here. And then all of a sudden you'd have, multiple guys bite on it. I think that day it was all four of us driving to Cheesman Canyon. I was only solo car, so I was in the car by myself. The other guys had all picked each
Oh,
other up,
gotcha.
so got out to that one. And then after that, I think it grew to like 6 or 8 different people in the chat just to see like how we could get people to go. Saturday we're gonna go out early over here. This looked good. It turned into more of a like an intel and kind of like beta information type thing. Like, oh, I was out in Gypsum this past weekend and these were hitting, or I was in.
Right.
You get your fish picks and all the stuff, and it was a way for all of us to kind of stay on the same page, fishing wise, but then also able to kind of figure out where to go or what was in. Oh, I'm going to go up there on Friday, and if I see anything, and then other guys are going to go up there on Saturday. And that chat just evolved over time, and I think I want to say the first run of t-shirts, I think we did like 12, and it was for those guys. And there were some other buddies and friends that were like, oh, I'd rock one of those shirts.
Yep.
So that one looks good. And then shortly thereafter here in Colorado, it was getting cold. So we did some hoodies, and those hoodies are actually what kind of spawned into taking it more for like full fledged on the clothing aspect. We had, 12 hoodies that were out there, people wearing them while they're fishing, while they're not, and other people asking questions about like, oh, where'd you get the hoodie? How'd this work? And then that's how, I mean, it originally started as just making clothes. And
Oh, it did. So before you had all the travel, that's that kind of how it started.
yeah, so like 2019, at the end of 2019, we did our first trip to Pyramid with 12 anglers. But end of 2018, we made our first run of shirts. And then all of 2019, it was just kind of like small batch, exclusive run stuff here in the Front Range, where like we'd come out with, 12 or 24 hoodies or 12 or 24 shirts, and they would sell out within, the first week of being there. I mean, all the guys in the text thread would all buy a shirt, but most of them would take an extra one with them and be able to sell it within the next 3 or 4 days to somebody else that they needed to fish. It was this,
Yeah.
kind of like an old school, almost like members only club or like a cheese and wine club. Like, they'd come out and within the week they'd all be gone. And then people would line up for the next one. And hey, my buddy wants one this time. And I think the biggest run we did was probably like almost like 30 of an older design shirt, mid 2019, right before the summer. And that one went real fast and went good. And then at that point, it was like, all right, now we need to keep some clothes in stock instead of just selling out every time. And that actual run is what prompted 6 or 7 of these people to be like, we want to figure out how to go to Pyramid Lake, yada, yada. And so that's when I was like, look, I'll figure out all the lodging. I'll figure out all the guides, figure out what's happening. And Pyramid Lake Outfitters was the first guys that we started working with. And we took a group out that year, a group out the next year before the pandemic. And then at that point, it was like those now clients were asking questions about, Pyramid Lake was great, but what's next? Or we wanted to figure out this, or we want to know about that. And then that was, led to us kind of developing this program where now we cover, Alaska to Argentina to Mongolia and wherever else. But I mean, we still have clients that may went on a trip. They went on a trip 3 years ago and now they want to figure out a new place, or somebody that went, like last week, we got a phone call about the Cook Islands off of Australia. Can you find anybody there? Do you know anything that's going on there? How do we get out for a day to fish on a family trip? And just like it started in 2019 with Pyramid Lake, that's kind of how it continues to develop now. We have a huge network of people where if you want to DIY fish, we'll find out the information for you to DIY. If you want to talk to a guide, we can put you with a guide. If you want to hire a guide for a day and then fish on your own. And it's almost, it's crazy how it goes even more full circle now where our clothing line does well, but everybody that goes on a trip still gets a sun hoodie for every trip that they go on, or they get a gator or a buff. So we try to, that's still from like the original start in 2018 and 2019 was, people that we'd go fish with, we'd give gear to let them rock. And even now, like we have a lot of conversations about, do we make clothing for the lodges that we have, or do we just have Moccasin Fly Club clothing for that? And certain species on the shirts. And I mean, it kind of gets into a weird deep dive with the team on, how many different ways you can turn it around.
How many ways can you do it? Because you could, I could see it working. Well, yeah, I mean, having both almost. You go to a lodge and you've got the lodge on the front side and you guys on the back or whatever, right? You got a kind of a partnership.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And now we give out koozies and certain things at the lodges in Colorado and New Mexico for everybody, whether or not you have it. But then if you are on a moccasin trip, you still get a moccasin sun hoodie of whatever that is. And usually it's the target species. So, when you go to Brazil, you get one with the peacock bass. When you go to New Mexico, you get one with the trout. And those things were like that's what we did when we started off, like everybody got a shirt when they went to the Pyramid Lake trip. Everybody that was in the group chat, we got shirts going for that.
So you did the same thing.
Yeah, trying to at least keep that, a pseudo part of the roots that now we call it a gift bag, though, because it's got, a fly line from a sponsor and it's got a sun hoodie and it could have some other stuff. And the biggest thing that is always, even to this day, talked about in the text threads, we make a little plaque that says biggest fish for every trip. So like, if you go down to Argentina and you fish for Golden Dorado, we have a little wooden plaque that's nothing special, but it says, Argentina Moccasin Fly Club biggest fish award.
Yep.
And we have guys that, try to collect them like Pokemon. And we have other guys that, send us pictures of them in their office.
Right.
That started with Pyramid Lake as well, as that, the guy that caught, we had a couple side bets going, biggest fish, most fish, smallest fish, first fish,
right?
All these little side bets that had a dollar amount or something with it, plus biggest fish had a prize. And those things still continue now, no matter where we do it, no matter who from our group is hosting a trip, no matter what it goes down to. There's always the same fun aspects of a fishing trip to get people happy. On the hunting side, it's a little different because most of those guys are trying to take home a trophy no matter what it is.
Oh, right.
But in the fishing world, you get your old school clothing just like we've always done. Plus, there's a little competition for everybody to have fun. And when you get back at night, everybody's having a drink, talking about who's this, who's that. I will tell you that now it gets even more technical about, a guide's got a, length or weight. You got to have a picture of it. Over the years, there's all kinds of ways to be a little bit more sure that everybody's being accurate and there's no big fish tails coming out.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's the thing. There's always I hear that about the 30-inch trout. Like, I think Chad Johnson was talking about that the other day. He was like, man, you hear all these guys talking about 30-inch trout. They're talking about the White River. And he was like, man, he's a guide every day, and he's only seen a handful of them in his career over 30. Right. So I feel like we all kind of stretch. It's fishing, right? We stretch it a little bit.
Yeah. Over the years, there's a bunch of stuff that gets added on. I mean, same thing, the 30-inch trout, the bull red, a 20-pound plus bull down in the marsh, or a 20-plus pound peacock, or a 20-plus pound Dorado. I mean, I think there's a lot of numbers that, most people are trying to hit 24-inch trout. Then all of a sudden there's somebody that talks about a 30-inch trout. Then you talk about a 20-pound or 30-pound this, or huge marlin and 100-pound tarpon. There's all these numbers that I think are kind of like a staple for what, there's what a guide like he would, a true number that they would call a trophy. And then there's all these other things. And
yep.
I tell everybody all the time, I'm like, if your hands are too close together, everybody knows it can't be that big of a fish. So
right.
No matter how far you push it out towards the camera and
yeah, right, the push out.
Yeah, it's like, hands are an easy way to figure some of it out. But I will say that, you hear about 30-inch trout. People show pictures of all this thing. Oh, the guide says it was this, it was that. But it is interesting. Nowadays, we have a lot of things where, like, tape measurers. There's new technology with the little ball thing that you can take a picture of when it's in with the fish to figure out the length. And I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
all kinds of stuff that people bring on the trips or people talk about it. And usually on night one, when we bring out whatever the trophy is going to be for that trip, then all of a sudden it's like, well, how do we know? And this and that. And well,
Yeah,
if the guy, if take a picture of the tail, take a picture of this, you can weigh it. The guide can weigh it in the net.
that's
It's
cool.
always it's always a part of the trip.
That adds a little. I mean, I think that's the fun part about it, and it's of course not always about the biggest fish, but it's kind of about just kind of the experiencing and keeping it fun, right, out there and
Yeah, of
having
course.
keep it.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a little bit. I'm interested in this because we have people that listen that definitely talking about traveling. They want to get out and travel, but maybe don't have quite the money to go on these major trips, right? And I think that the
Right.
idea of how do you travel on a budget, I think you've done. I'd say you're probably an expert with all the travel you've done, but I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Like, where do you start that conversation? I'm sure that leads into your DIY stuff, but what would be a few tips you would give somebody if they're thinking, hey, I want to go do some traveling, but I want to do it on a budget? Where do you start that conversation?
So, my personal opinion is I usually am focused on more of either a species or a location, right?
Yeah.
So, someplace you haven't been before. Now, talking about new waters and a place you've never fished does make some anglers reluctant. I won't use the term scared or afraid. I will
Yeah.
use the term reluctant. You're used to going to a certain place and you're used to catching fish and you have a certain amount of time and you want to make sure that it's productive for what you're putting in. And home waters are like that. You should be able to go to home waters and catch fish and be good at catching fish there. I think in my career of traveling and fishing, a lot of places will tell you that to be the best angler that you can ever be, you got to be able to go almost anywhere at any time and catch fish. So it's not that you're the best trout angler. It's not that you're the best redfish angler. It's not that you're the best walleye angler. It's the fact that you are a great angler in general of whatever that is. Now, you want to be a pure fly fishing angler. I understand that because that's what I love too. So finding new waters has a bunch of different ways, and if we're focused on budget, I think we're looking at drive time and lodging and do it yourself type of fishing. If we want to actually go learn new waters, then I think there is some strategy about travel and being with a guide on the first day and then having the rest of the trip be DIY so that the flies, the current, you can ask questions about the water. And that day with the guide isn't necessarily a super hard let's fish day and catch fish as much as it's an educational class type of day.
Yeah.
Like if you've never been to the San Juan in New Mexico and you go there, it's a technical tailwater and they're throwing a bunch of different bugs depending on the flow and the time of the year and what's happening and where you are in the river, what time of day it is on the river. And I think those are things that you can learn in new waters that will help you put fish in the net. And I think that's overall the goal. Now, if you want to stay domestic and you want to be in the States and you want to be within a 3 or 4 hour drive time, pick something that does that. And then you got to drive there and fish for the day and drive back. Every day that you go there, you're going to get better and learn something new about the new waters, which is part of the fun, is that you get really good at catching something else. So here in Colorado, we fish a lot for trout. We have cutthroat, we have brookies, we have rainbows, we have browns, we have whatever. At Pyramid Lake in Reno, which is a 14-hour drive or a 90-minute flight, they have the biggest cutthroat trout in the world. And for me, I wanted to catch the biggest cutthroat trout that I could ever catch. Just so happens that the biggest in the world are relatively close to us compared to the other biggest fish in the world of a certain species. So that's why the Pyramid Lake trip happened.
Oh, yeah.
I have been bitten many times by the bug of just wanting to catch big fish. I love catching a bunch of different species, but I also want to catch the biggest fish of species if I can. So that's why we did a trip to Pyramid Lake. In our first trip, you're standing on ladders and spay casting out into the middle of a shelf and trying to catch fish and you get into it. You catch an 8-pound cutthroat, that's awesome. If the guy next to you catches a 12-pound cutthroat, you know that there are bigger fish out there and you're learning all of those things. You probably are going to learn new techniques on fishing. You're probably going to learn new techniques on how to tie rigs. You're going to learn new techniques on what type of weather you want and what type of things the fish are doing in weather. And learning about the fish and the environment in the new waters will always help you when you go back home, no matter what it is. Like when you see them throw a suspended film rig at the San Juan that's 2 inches under the surface and you catch a 20-inch trout, you're like, oh, well, now I know when I see those fish always rising, they may not be eating on the surface. They may be eating just below the surface. So I need to get my rig right below the surface of the water And then at home, all of a sudden, you're catching fish that used to not hit the dry because they weren't actually eating dries. They're eating, suspended things and stuff like
Right.
that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is that one at Pyramid Lake? Because the ladders is the unique thing. You don't find ladders, you're not pulling that out to your local lakes, but there are things there you were taking home back to Colorado and other places.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the understanding of where the shelf is. So, I mean, you're on a ladder in Pyramid Lake because there's this gradual kind of like almost like a kiddie pool, how you walk into a pool. There's this real
Yeah.
gradual slope. And then, another 20, 30 yards out, there is a plummet. And this shelf is where the fish are rolling. The fish either come up the shelf, down the shelf, but most of the time they're around the shelf. The reason you're on a ladder is because if you weren't on a ladder, you'd be, almost up to your shoulders in water and you can't cast to the shelf. I mean, the first thing is understanding that, those fish are on that shelf. At Pyramid Lake, another thing you learn real fast is the weather, the bigger the fish are.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when the water is chaotic and there's snow and rain and waves and it's not that fun to be out of the water, it kicks up and moves a lot of the things that are sedentary in that lake because there's not a lot of water motion. But when you get the water moving, more of that aquatic life comes out and those big fish come out and eat. So, being on the shelf, knowing that even though it's windy and it sucks out of the water, in the water, the fish are probably having the best day that they've had in a month.
Right.
And then also just, I mean, in general, for me, it was the first time I ever spay casted.
Oh, wow. So, yeah, you guys are doing two-handers down there.
Yeah, so you're on a ladder, two-handed spay casting out to a shelf. You got a long distance connect on a fish. So, I mean, you're not high sticking a river trying to, fight a fish that's only maybe 10 feet from you. You're fighting a fish that's probably, 30 yards from you. So all of those things are great things to learn on being a bugger angler in general.
So when you're casting with the spay, are you guys doing the overhand cast or is it just like a roll cast, like a typical spay cast?
Typical roll cast.
Okay, and is that what the majority of people are doing out there, is the spay?
I think a lot of guys are double hauling streamers or are double hauling when they can if they want to really get it out there. I think if you are indicator fishing, you're looking at more of a spay roll because it's a longer rig on that. I have done a lot of double haul, single hand casting out there on ladders. And then I've also done a lot of spay casting. I think it really depends on the day and what's happening on what's more productive. And they will say, the guys out there will say the double haul, single hand casting is going to be more for like stripping in something as opposed to your spay casting is for more of an indicator fishing that's going to just stay there. And the indicator is going to get pushed in. You're going to have to spay cast again. But yeah, it's just a true normal roll cast, spay cast. And it will get you further than any single hand cast. So, I mean, that's the bridging that distance to get to the shelf is the biggest part. And trying to hit the shelf is one thing. What all the guides will teach you is that you need to be past the shelf, right? You want your bugs to be the presentation to be real and they need to look proper while they're drifting towards the shelf. And that's when you get the most bites.
Gotcha.
If you're at the shelf drifting in, you've kind of missed that kill zone.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think that's those are things that no matter where you go for this, new waters on a budget, no matter where you want to go, the biggest thing is just being a student, learning what's happening there, talking to people there. The other parts that I will tell you is that no matter where you're going to go that's new, stop into a fly shop or figure out where there's a guide service and go and ask them before you go fish.
Yeah.
Any good angler, before you get down to the water, you shouldn't have bugs tied on in the parking lot and go down there and say, this is what's going to work. Go down to the water. Spend 10 minutes looking around, see what the fish are doing, see what the bugs are doing. All of that intel is the same as, going to a fly shop or going somewhere and being like, hey, look, we've never been here before, drove all the way out here, want to have a good day. What can you tell us? Or what are your guides throwing? What's been going on? Is it going to be good? Is it going to be blown out? What's the weather going to do?
Yeah.
All of the know before you go things that are preached in backcountry skiing or any outdoor sport are the same in this as well. Like you're not going to go hunting in some field that you don't know that there's birds at or you don't know is proper. Just like you don't want to go fishing at some river that doesn't have the fish that you want or isn't the right time of year to fish for what you want. So I think there's a lot of stuff, even on a budget, there's free information and free ways to make that better. Then obviously you get into if you actually need different gear, right? If you're throwing a 9'5" weight here in Colorado, and you want to go down and fish for redfish in New Orleans, it's not an expensive trip, but it probably requires different gear. So if you want to find new waters on a budget, find new waters that you can use your existing gear with. Your same rod and reel, but maybe you just need a different line. You're same rod, reel, and line, but maybe you need different flies.
Yep.
I will tell a lot of people, especially here in Colorado, like if you can get out and get some bass fishing in, you're going to learn, not only how streamer fishing works, you're going to learn setting the hook on a streamer set. You're also going to learn fighting a bigger fish and a stronger fish. You can catch 12 to 14-inch trout all day in a river out here. It's not the same as, having a smallmouth or a largemouth bass, rip line out and et cetera. So those are just different ways to get better at being an angler that it is new.
Do you guys have quite a bit of those? Is there quite a bit of smallmouth fishing in Colorado?
Yeah, so we up in Fort Collins, we have some smallmouth fisheries. It's not as easy, but there are some. If you want to go, drive an hour and get on trout and do other stuff, obviously we can make that happen for you. But as an angler, if you're trying to learn new stuff, anything that's new is better than doing some of the same stuff you can. Now, I understand home waters and that you may not have the time to drive there and do this and whatever, but if you're saying, look, I got a 3-day weekend coming up next month, I want to figure out where I can go. I can get within 2 hours from here and fish and get 2 hours home. There's a whole new world for you to probably find some new fish and find new waters that is going to be a challenge and will most likely make you a better angler.
Yeah. What is your program? Maybe talk about that a little bit. Some of your popular, most popular places people are coming to you for. Is this more kind of Colorado, US, or we'll talk about that a little bit?
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean, we have a big base here in Colorado. We're based in between Denver and Boulder. So in, I don't know, about 30 minutes, we could be in South Boulder fishing, or you could be down in 45 minutes to an hour. You could be at Cheesman or Decker's or some of those infamous, well-known places. Where I am at the office, we're about 3 hours from our lodge by Glenwood Springs. So we have a house in Silt, Colorado that's 3 minutes from the lower Colorado River. And that's probably the easiest program that we talk to people about that aren't from Colorado. If you want to come here and you want to float fish, which again is a new thing, if you're always walking and waiting and you want to try something different, fish on a boat with a guide and see how different that is. You're going to cover 10 miles worth of water as opposed to maybe half a mile. You're going to learn, how men's really help out drifts. You're going to be in a bunch of different pockets. You're also going to be pretty much whitewater rafting down a river in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
That's our biggest DIY program.
That's the Glenwood Springs.
Yeah. So right outside of Glenwood Springs, we have a place where people can fish reservoirs. You can do the Frying Pan, the Roaring Fork, the Colorado. You could drive up and do the White. You can do Harvey Gap, Rifle Gap. You could also drive up into the flat tops for any of those high alpine things. And those are all, DIY accessible, or we have guides that people can talk to get information, or those same guides will book days and do other stuff. But yeah, that's probably our biggest, most well-known one, just because there's a lot of people already coming to Colorado for trips. So they can get in a half day, they can get in a full day. Some people come out for 2 or 3 days and stay there and fish as much as they can. The second one that would be the cheaper aspect on new waters would be the one in New Mexico at the San Juan.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to float past thousands and thousands of fish every 100 yards. But it's a very technical tailwater that you need to, know what's going on. You can walk and wade the braids on your own. And we have a great group of people down there too that, whether or not you're going out with a guide, the guides will all let you know what's happening there.
Yeah. How far is that from you guys? How far is that San Juan?
So from Denver down there is probably like a 6-hour drive.
Oh, it's not bad. Yeah.
And you can fly into Albuquerque and drive 2.5 hours. You can fly into Durango and drive an hour and a half. You can fly into Denver and drive down there. I mean, getting there is the harder part. When you get here to Denver, if you take 70 west in 3 hours, you're in Glenwood Springs where the other place is. But there's a ton of water in between here and there. You can do Cheesman and Decker's. You can do the Eagle. You can do the Upper Colorado. So, I mean, we have a massive amount of water in Colorado. Plus, we have a whole different program that is more on private aspects of waters with a big outfitter here that we have a partnership with. So, I mean, there's tons of stuff that when people come to Denver and they say they want to do a half day, we have options. If you want to do a full day, we have tons of options. And those would be like the easiest freshwater DIY stuff. After that, our biggest destination that we do the most trips to year round is New Orleans. It's kind of like an intro to saltwater. If you've never stood on the front of a skiff and sight fished for anything in the salt, redfish and black drum and sheepshead are an unbelievable way to kind of see how you like it before you want to go deal with permit and tarpon and other stuff, you can always go down and fish in New Orleans. It's a domestic trip. You fly right into New Orleans, an hour away. You're on a boat fishing, and we do 4 to 5 trips there a year in between November and February for a bunch of different things. Some of our corporate events go down there. Some of our clients will take their whole group down there. I personally love it just because it's a way to go get on big fish. You know, you have a great chance of hitting some 20-pound plus reds in November, December, and January. And that one isn't necessarily, I mean, compared to other trips, it's kind of a better budget. But, you know, it's not the same. Like if you're looking to stay in a car and only have an Airbnb and fish new waters, you got to stay in your general region. If you want to fly somewhere and fish freshwater, those present themselves in a
Yeah,
bunch.
you're not going to be sleeping in your rental car, right? Out in New
No, you hope.
Orleans.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to do the White River in Arkansas or you want to do Colorado or New Mexico, we also have a bunch of stuff in New England, in Maine, and Vermont, and etc. So, you know, we work with people on, you know, what's closest and easiest. Then we kind of have our normal stuff that, you know, New Orleans is always a good one. Before you try to get out there and get after some crazy saltwater fish, go down to New Orleans. There's great food, usually great weather, as long as there's no hurricanes.
Right.
And then, you know, we get people on that one a lot.
Who are the people down there on the New Orleans trip? Who are the guides? And is this something where what's the lodging and all that stuff look like down there?
We used to work with the lodge and guide service together. Now we do more offsite lodging. So we'll be getting Airbnbs and places for us to stay as a group.
So you'll set that up. So that's kind of what you're doing behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah.
You're setting up the Airbnb. You're kind of doing everything so people just come and
Yeah. And we talk more now as like a concierge service. So I mean, if you want ground transportation, air transportation, private or commercial, you want lodging or lodging with or without chef's food or etc. You want fishing on your own, fishing with a guide, hunting on your own, with a guide, everything all the way up to like travel insurance and etc. We do all of it kind of a la carte, start to finish. We have trips that none of us go on as hosts, and we just set up custom trips for clients to go do whatever they'd like to do. And as much of what they want us to set up, we set up. Then we have hosted trips where we actually have one of our moccasin people on the trip with you. They're your driver in the rental car. They pick you up at the airport. They take you around. They're with the guides. They're helping you out understand everything. And then the other one is just booking a guide. So like we have a lot of people that are already traveling and they just call us up and say, look, you know, I'm going to be over here for this weekend. I'd like to find a guide for this date.
Yeah.
And we most likely have a guide already in that area. We see if they're available or we can see if other ones are available. But yeah, I mean, like that Alaska to Argentina to Mongolia type of tagline. I mean, we do everything from, you know, cars, planes, helicopters, boats,
right,
fishing.
So you setting up everything. So if somebody wants the full service, you know, everything covered, you do that, or just the opposite.
Correct. Yeah. Like if you just call us up and say, look, we just want to be able to fish in Colorado on our own. You can, you know, stay at our place and fish on your own and not do anything else and drive yourself in, fly yourself in, whatever.
Gotcha. I'm interested on the New Orleans trip because I know I've been talking to a few people about that. You know, because redfish is a big species. I think a lot of people, it's on the list.
Oh yeah.
Describe that trip. Like if somebody wanted to do more of an all-inclusive thing, they wanted you guys to take care of everything. What would that trip? Is there a timing already ready for that one? Are you guys like doing that at the same time?
Yeah. We have dates in November. We have 2 trips in December, and we have 1 trip in January as of right now that are locked and loaded. So it's technically a 4-day trip. Day 1, you fly into New Orleans. You get picked up at the airport. We drive out to our lodging. It's about an hour-long commute from the airport out there. Mm-hmm. I'd say more really like 40 minutes, but depending on traffic, we always like to say an hour.
Yep.
So night 1 is just, you know, setting up at camp, hanging out, talking to everybody. We do a opening dinner. Sometimes that's going out somewhere where we can do local cuisine. Sometimes it's a crawfish boil at the house that we're staying at. Then day 2 is your first day on the water. You're on the water all day. You get off, you have dinner. Day 3 is another day on the water. Then you're off. Day 4, you're on the water all day. We get off the water and you get driven right back to the airport. So you fly out the night of day 4. You got 3 nights of lodging, 3 days of fishing on a skiff. It is 2 people per boat, depending on how it works. Some people want their own boat, and we can move that around. But 5 spots on that one, $2,500 per angler gets you the 3 days fishing, the 3 days lodging, the opening dinner, the gift bag, the ground transportation. So everything except for your flight to New Orleans
That's cool.
is part of that hosted trip. And if you want to do other stuff, we have some people that'll stay instead of flying out the night of day 4, they stay in New Orleans and go do something and fly out the next day. None of that matters to us how you want to set it up. We'll get you to wherever you need to go. And I want to say right now, I think we have 1 or 2 spots in November. I think we have one spot on each trip in December, and then we have 3 spots left in the January one. And I mean, we set those trips up often though for multiple things. So if it's you and a buddy that just want to go down there and fish, we can find you the place to stay.
Right. So you don't have to. So if you could do, I mean, the $2,500 is a great deal. You're talking 3 days on the water, 3 nights, like you said. I mean, that's a great value, and you can go down there and have it all inclusive. Essentially, you basically just get your flight to get to New Orleans, and then everything else is taken care of.
So you dinners for nights 2 and 3 would be on your own.
Yep.
We all have to bring our own lunches because that's just how it works.
Gotcha.
So we don't say all inclusive.
Yeah, it's not all inclusive. But
yeah, like one trip to the grocery store and your tips, everything else is covered.
Yeah, but the lodging is covered, and the guides are covered. And who are the guides? I think that's another thing that is maybe challenging, right? How have you guys found all the guides, and how do you kind of do your vetting system? How does all that work?
So, I mean, the biggest thing that we can say is that, I've been on everybody. I can't say I've been on everybody's, but we as a company have been on everybody's boat at least once. We let people know if we haven't done. So what we do, we vet out outfitters often throughout the year, but we do what's called a confirmation trip. So we fly there, we see what the transportation's like, we see what the lodging's like, we see what the food's like. We go out fishing for a day with them. So we kind of vet everything out in person on site to make sure we know what we're getting into. Now, what's a good example? August of 2026, we're going to Mongolia for the first time ever.
Oh, right. Mongolia. Now that's a little bit further, right?
Yeah. So this trip we haven't done a confirmation on, and this trip will have myself and another person from Moccasin on the trip with our clients. But we're very honest about the fact that, like, we haven't been there before. We haven't done the fishing. We can vet out as much as we can beforehand, but we're going to be there with you on site. We'll be on the planes flying there. We'll be in the truck driving to the camp. We'll be there fishing with you for the week. We'll be there getting you back, whatever. So that's a different type of thing.
And there can't be that many. I'm guessing Mongolia, there can't be that many operations out there, right? Or they're like,
No.
Yeah. So these are kind of already vetted because there's not a lot of choices, right? They're probably all pretty good.
And vetted meaning they have other people that have come out and gone fishing with them.
Yeah, you could talk to. I mean, that's something you could do, right? You could talk to the people. I'm sure you guys have already done that, right?
We have a lot of that. So, like in Mexico, if you want to go fish for permit, we have 3 different locations that you can go fish. We have Punta Allen in Ascension Bay. We have Casa Cangrija that's in Ishkalak, and we have another place, Blacksmith, in Espiritu. So, I mean, we have different places where we've been all over and know what it is, but it's finding the right fit for what the client wants, whether that's budget, timing, time of year, and dates that are available. But yeah, I mean, like in New Orleans with our guides, we've been going there since 2021. Now we have, in the past 3 years, I think we've done almost 15 trips there. So, I mean, we have it. I can't say it's down to an exact science because there's always weather.
Yeah.
The reason why we do 3 days is that if you do get hit with weather, you hopefully still get 2 days of good fishing in.
Yeah. This is Mexico?
No, that was in New Orleans.
Oh, that's New Orleans, yeah.
In New Mexico, we can do 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. Like, we can set up almost anything.
Okay, and what about the permit stuff on the Mexico that you mentioned?
So the permit stuff is the same thing. If you've never gotten into the saltwater fishing and you want to go after permit, they are finicky and they are hard, and that's why everybody wants to chase them and why it's kind of like a notch in the belt to hold a permit. So that if you've never done it, it's going to be a long week. Permit fishers talk about having shots in a week. They don't talk about holding fish in a week.
Yeah. So do you think it's better to, if you haven't done the saltwater thing, do you think it's better to maybe plan a trip to bonefish first, or maybe bones and permit the same thing? Or do you guys offer that?
Yeah. I mean, I think bonefish save a lot of trips. If you don't touch any permit and you can get in some bonefish, or you can go after tarpon, it's great. For us, usually we tell people before you spend, for 5 days permit fishing in Mexico, you're probably at like $3,000 to $3,500.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, go down to New Orleans, get on the front of a skiff, try to catch some redfish, see how that goes.
Right.
If you like what that is, you can keep doing that and probably save yourself some money and be able to catch big fish. Or then we need to get you on, the shot that you take at a redfish you're probably going to take twice to three times that at a permit, right? Like you may cast 12 feet, 15 feet at a redfish. You're going to be 40 feet
Oh yeah.
at a permit to try to get some eats going. So I think it always depends on, what the ability is and what they want to do. If you're just want to go start putting in time, catching permit, the more days you go, inevitably, the more permit you're going to catch. So if you've only fished for permit for 5 days, you may not catch any. Once you hit 15, 20, 30 days, you're probably starting to get better at permit fishing, and most likely you're going to hold some. And some people are great right off the bat, and that's awesome too. But I would say that you want to have expectations where they are. Like if you're trying to go out and catch 100-pound plus tarpon, it's going to take some time, and you're probably going to get some 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. But hitting the triple digits is a special fish on the special day where it all comes together and you land a tarpon. You don't always land those.
No.
If you hook into a small permit or a break permit, you're most likely landing the permit because that's their lips are soft and that's how it works.
Yeah, yeah. What about on the permit what about if you wanted to do the permit thing again, you're on kind of on a budget. Let's just stay on that budget idea. Is there a trip you guys offer, something you can put together where maybe somebody can go do a similar thing like you said, Colorado, get a couple days guide and then go off on your own, or is that harder with permit?
Yeah. We have a couple places in Mexico and also another place in Honduras. You can go out and stay. You'd be in the same lodging the whole time, but you can have a day or two with a guide and then try to go out on your own and do other stuff. Also, I think Belize would have some of that.
Oh, Belize, right.
When you're DIY fishing for permit, most likely you're on foot because you're not renting a skiff, driving a skiff, and fishing on a skiff.
No.
Just not how it works. So I think, you're looking for beach and flats and being able to wade into flats and all this other stuff. So there are options for that too. On a budget, you're probably still at around $2,000 on lodging, food, and everything for the week.
Mm-hmm.
The guides aren't necessarily more expensive. When you're staying at one of those lodges, it's kind of like all rolled into the thing together.
Yeah. And is that Belize or is that Mexico for the permit on the budget?
I would say Mexico, we could probably do that 2,000 to 2,500. In Belize, I think you're probably looking more at like $3,000 just more. Because it's a little stronger economy.
Yep.
Honduras is probably around the same price as Mexico, but you're either fishing from a beach and probably not on a flat, or you want to be with a guide. And I think a lot of people, if you want to do 3 days, do 3 days with a guide. If you want to do 5 days, do 2 days with a guide and 3 days on your own. You can get into your own fish and other fish. I mean, there's, as the line goes, there's plenty of fish in the sea. So you may not be right on your target species, but you still may get into some snappers and some jacks and some other awesome stuff.
Yeah, you're close.
So, I mean, it's kind of what you want to have happen. If you want to get really good at fishing for permit, then, it's not going to be the same budget as if you just want to catch some fish in Honduras and have a guide for a couple days.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think the budget is all relative, right? Like if you want to go down to Argentina and catch golden dorado, it's not a cheap flight and it's probably not as cheap of lodging and fishing. If you want to go to Brazil and catch peacock bass, that's a different thing. And I think if we break it down, you can fish for under $1,000. You can come to Colorado and New Mexico and fish for trout on your own. If you want to be in that, $2,000 range, then you obviously got New Orleans and some other places. If you want to be in a $3,000 range, then you're talking Mexico, Belize, and probably most of Central America. You can figure something out. Then if you want to do, truly international stuff.
Is that the 4,000 plus or more?
I'd say you're probably 5, 6, something like that. And I mean, our trip to Mongolia is $5,500 for 7 days of fishing.
That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah, so it's not, and the flights are probably about 1,000, but there's not, a lot of people going to Mongolia all the time.
No, is that 65? So 6,500 for, is that everything? If you had the flight, is the 5,500 all inclusive?
Yeah, so the 5,500 has domestic flight, all your lodging, all your fishing, all your food, everything included in the 5,500. And then the flights are like 800 to 1,200, or 800 to 1,200, depending on when and how. So you're probably talking, under $7,000. You're all inclusive. I mean, for us in Colorado, we're going Colorado, New York, Istanbul, Turkey, Mongolia. Then in Mongolia, you got to do some domestic moving. And you're in northern Mongolia is the easiest way to describe it. But you are at a lodge. So we spend some time in the lodge fishing on property. Then we have boats and go out and kind of do camping and riverside meals and sight fishing, taimen, Lennox, grayling.
Taimen.
So it's a whole different experience, so to speak. And if you like the traveling and you like the expedition part of it, that's an unbelievable one. If you want AC and Wi-Fi and being on a yacht, then Brazil would be a whole week in the Amazon rainforest, but you got AC in every room, your own bathroom and shower in every room. You're on a 120-foot yacht for a
Right.
week,
The yacht. Yep.
driving around in the Amazon. You're fishing every day on the equator. We'll catch lots of peacock bass. I mean, I think my week down there in January, I did like 200 something peacocks in a week. So
Wow.
it's a different thing. Now, if you want more luxury and wine and other stuff, then you can go down to Argentina and fish for golden dorado or trout. But either way, you're going to have a siesta in the afternoon and bottles of wine and
Yep.
unbelievable food. And it's kind of all depending on, what people are looking at. As I said at the beginning, my personal opinion is I'm always looking at a species. So if I want to go catch the biggest tarpon possible, I'm trying to figure out how I can get to wherever I can be for migratory tarpon. If I want to catch the biggest golden dorado possible, then I want to figure out that. If you just want to be at a new place, and we work with tons of clients that, as myself, like my family travels with me sometimes. So like if you want you and the family and the kids are going to go to Costa Rica and mom and dad want to fish for a day, we can figure that out. If you want to come out to Colorado and do a bunch of stuff and then you also fly fish for a day, we figure out those things. It's not like you only have to be a solo angler or a group of anglers only that want to go out and do stuff. Like trips are trips. So as much as you can get out of the trip, you should do that.
Yeah. I like the way you broke it down, on this because, and we're going to take it out of here in a little bit, but, you kind of started with, Colorado Springs, the San Juan, New Orleans for the permit. We didn't talk about hunting or anything. I think we'll probably get into that on the next one, but, and then permit on a budget, but these different ranges, 1,000, 2,000. So it sounds like, that's what you guys specialize. I mean, what would you say is you've described it here today, but what do you think makes you guys stand out apart from the other, whatever you call the service you guys provide here?
I mean, I think there's a little bit more hands-on with us. I mean, one, we've probably done a lot of the stuff that we're talking to you about doing. I think that the biggest thing is us trying to be more of a concierge service for all of this is that, your satisfaction is a big part of what this wants to be. So if you tell us what you want, we're trying to make that happen. We're not trying to make what we want happen as much as it's, trying to put you on where is the best place at the best time to do that.
Yeah.
If that's family fishing, or if that's you trying to get a bucket list fish, or if that's you wanting to go someplace you've never gone before. And I also think we're small and we're also out there in the field. So, I mean, if you're traveling in New Mexico and you're not staying at our lodge and you're not fishing with our guides, you can still ask us questions and we may know what bugs are working or where to go. There's no like gatekeeping or holding stuff back. We're pretty open about everything that's happening. And I think the biggest thing for us is our truest positivity is that every year we have our clients bringing their other friends that probably have fished with some of the big names that do what we do, but now they come and they fish with us because maybe they have more fun on our trips. Maybe it's a little bit more relaxed. Maybe that's because we actually have a human being on the trip with you. It's not like you book a trip with us and you get an email and never talk to us again. We have phones. We talk to people all the time. Our travel agent is 24/7, no matter where you are in the world. You can call them. If you book with them, you can use them forever you want. We help clients figure out trip insurance. So a lot of our big hunters, like if you're spending 25 to 40 grand to go on a hunting trip, we have ways to insure that trip that if something goes wrong on your connection flight or something goes wrong somewhere else,
Oh, right.
you may be able to recoup some of that. We work with a lot of our clients on just getting, global entry and TSA pre-check and clear, like all the little things to make your travel life easier. We help out with
That's
that as
right.
much as we can.
So you have a whole checklist of things that you guys are covering that the people probably aren't even thinking about if they haven't done a lot of this.
Correct. I think that's the biggest thing that kind of makes us slightly different is that people text me all day. People text our team all day. They email us. You can call us. Also, if you want to talk about someplace that we haven't been before, we're most likely trying to figure out how to go. Mongolia was brought on by our clients that want to go there. So we just figured out how to make it happen and also wanted to be sure we could go see it firsthand. Other places that I've never been, like Galapagos Islands and Australia, New Zealand, and all these other places, like those would all be awesome. But we try to stay as busy as we can, keeping clients happy where they want to go and what they want to fish for, whether that's, trout in fresh water or saltwater or the most exotic, craziest location you can think of, us putting people on the water and putting people in the field is the biggest thing for us.
Yeah, that's it. Nice. Well, this is cool. I think we could probably leave it there. I was going to do a quick little, plays of the week for you. I always like my sports analogies to, think of, I always think of like LeBron doing a highlight dunk on ESPN Sports Center. For you, we talked about some big fish, on this. Do you have a play of the week you think of, like some fishing story that you mentioned pyramid? Is there one that sticks out over?
As a personal accomplishment, in November, I was in Argentina for 3 days to work with our outfitters there, and I was able to net 34.5-pound golden Dorado.
Oh, you did? You got a Dorado?
Yeah. So, we've caught tons of Dorado and big Dorado, but 34.5 pounds, biggest fish that they had caught in any of their whole year of 2024. So, it's unbelievable. It's something that I love. I love the golden Dorado in general, just because of the veracity and how crazy they are. So, that was a cool play of the week for me that happened. I think the other one would be, my hopes this year is to try to land a big tarpon. So
tarpon.
That's the goal.
A big one. So you're thinking not baby tarpon. You're thinking big tarpon.
I'd like to be over 75 pounds.
Yeah, over 75. I'm not even sure. I'm not on where the transition is between baby and large, but it doesn't matter. 75 pounds is huge.
Yeah, your juvies that are under 15, and then normal size, whatever, 15 to 50 or something. But yeah, if I could have some sort of mega tarpon, that'd be cool this year. But there's not a ton of time to figure out when that's going to happen, so we'll see. Okay.
Well, we'll leave some of the other questions I have for you on the next one, and we'll send everybody out to moccasinflyclub.com if they have questions for you. And this has been awesome, John. I appreciate you shedding light on your operation. And I think obviously we can hear just in this hour everything you have going, and it's pretty overwhelming to think about planning trips. That's the challenge, right? This is not easy. So I think it's good to have you on here, and we'll be in touch.
Awesome, man. Thanks a lot, Dave. And anybody that's listening, if you guys have any questions or thoughts or need any info, feel free to reach out. We're always available.
Quick call to action today. If you're interested in getting more information on Moccasin Fly Club, you can check in right now, moccasинflyclub.com. They've got a wide range, as we talked about today, and we're definitely going to be putting some of these together. I know redfish is a hot topic we've talked about, and Colorado, a number of these different. So if you're interested, check in with John and then check in with me and let me know if you want to get this rolling. If you haven't already, you can subscribe to this podcast. Click that plus button. You'll get the next episode delivered to your inbox. And the next episode that's coming up next week, you don't want to miss this. The Feather Thief is coming up Monday. This is a crazy story about fly tying and a heist that is kind of a crazy heist. We get into the feathers. If you haven't heard this story, classical salmon fly tyers and the feathers they use. Stay tuned. Kirk Wallace Johnson is up Monday, The Feather Thief. All right, it's getting late in the evening right now, so I hope if you're listening right till the end here, you have a great evening. And if it's morning, hope you're having a great morning. If it's already afternoon for you, I hope you have a good day and look forward to checking out with you on the next episode. Talk to you then.